Campaign 2012 is in the books. The uncertain future facing our state and the major issue now facing the nation after the most expensive campaign in history.
Now, Nevada's first choice for news. This is Channel 8 News Now at noon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. More than $2 billion was spent on the most expensive campaign ever, and there were not a lot of changes. President Obama won re-election. Democrats still control the Senate. Republicans still control the House.
So throughout this newscast, we're going to be rolling election results right at the bottom of the screen. You see there. We will start our coverage with the presidential race. President Obama is planning his next 4 years in office after defeating Mitt Romney. The electoral votes stand at 303 to 206, with the Florida still undecided.
But as the president and his supporters celebrate, there's the realization of difficult challenges ahead. Bigad Shaban reports from Chicago.
The president gets another 4 years in the White House thanks to the same voters who elected yet another split Congress. The president says that political divide was a roadblock to reform during his first term. Now, political pundits wonder how things are supposed to change over the next 4 years. A victorious Barack Obama heads back to Washington to face the same divided Congress in his second term.
The recognition that we have common hopes and dreams won't end all the gridlock or solve all our problems.
The president swept almost all the battleground states, giving him a decisive victory in the Electoral College. But the popular vote was much closer.
Whether I earned your vote or not, I have listened to you. I have learned from you.
During the president's speech here, he promised to work across party lines. He'll have to. Congress remains split. Democrats held on to the Senate, while Republicans kept the majority in the House. President Obama says he hopes to sit down with Mitt Romney in the coming weeks to meet the difficult challenges ahead. In his concession speech, Romney also expressed the need to find common ground.
At a time like this, we can't risk partisan bickering and political posturing. Our leaders have to reach across the aisle to do the people's work.
The president is facing some major crises, most urgently a fiscal cliff that's looming next month. Economists warn if Congress doesn't reach a deal on a mix of automatic tax increases and spending cuts, the economy could fall back into a recession. But the president is optimistic.
Despite all the frustrations of Washington, I've never been more hopeful about our future.
With a high unemployment rate and a huge national debt, the president has the next 4 years cut out for him. The president will be sworn in for his second term during a private ceremony on January 20th. But the main public event will be in the nation's capital the very next day. Reporting in Chicago, I'm Bigad Shaban. Now back to you.
As you heard there again, we've been hearing that phrase fiscal cliff a lot. House Speaker John Boehner plans to deliver a statement later today saying there needs to be a bipartisan deal to avoid a crisis. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid also calling for a quick solution. Reid also says he wants bipartisanship but won't be pushed around and will raise the debt ceiling if necessary.
I'm willing to negotiate any time on any issue. Gridlock is not the solution. It's the problem. There was a message sent to us by the American people based on the campaign, and that is people making all this money have to contribute a little bit more.
The so-called fiscal cliff involves the expiration of Bush-era tax cuts, spending cuts to defense and domestic problems that could total, I should say domestic programs, that could total $800 billion next year. Economists say it threatens to push the economy back into a recession if a deal is not reached by the end of the year.
You know, Nevada was expected to be one of about 9 battleground states that would help decide the presidential election, but didn't turn out that way, even though the campaigns poured millions of dollars into advertising and there were numerous visits by the candidates and their supporters here. Much like he did in 2008, President Obama jumped out to an early lead and won Nevada's 6 electoral votes by a larger margin than most people expected. The state election was called fairly quickly.
Obviously, it wasn't the result that we wanted, but, you know, defeating an incumbent president is a very difficult task. You know, the powers of incumbency are vast, and I think the president was very fortunate that some numbers started to turn in his favor in really these last few weeks.
All of our volunteers put in so much effort. Our ground game in the state has been incredible. It's been obviously incredibly successful.
Now, the Hispanic vote is being credited with helping push the president past Romney in Nevada. President Obama hammered Romney by a 2-to-1 margin in this growing demographic.
While a number of Democrats were able to ride President Obama's coattails to victory in their U.S. Senate and House races, Shelley Berkeley was not one of them. In a brutal campaign, incumbent Dean Heller narrowly held on to the seat he was appointed to after John Ensign resigned. Senator Heller did not get a majority, but he did beat Berkeley by about 12,000 votes in a race that was not called until well after midnight.
How are we going to start working together to make this thing happen? And I'll tell you, I am as prepared and ready to work together with both sides. And I know the president got reelected, and I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it, and that is that when this president's right, I'll continue to support him. If I don't think he's right, I won't, and I'll let him know why. But I think we have to solve problems here. Washington, D.C., we got to stop worrying about who gets the credit.
I wish him well. He's got an enormous task ahead of him, representing the good people of the great state of Nevada, and I hope that he knows he can count on me to do everything I can to make his term in the United States Senate a success.
The campaign featured vicious attacks, with Heller questioning Berkeley's ethics, calling her corrupt, and Berkeley saying Heller supports big business. Berkeley gave up her seat in the U.S. House in order to run for the Senate.
The next session of the U.S. Congress, Nevada will have 4 representatives instead of 3. There's one new face, 2 incumbents, 1, and a former representative who is going back to Washington. That's Dina Titus, the longtime political figure who won the seat that Shelley Berkeley gave up to run for Senate. She beat Republican Navy officer Christopher Edwards.
Well, I know we'll be facing a lot of serious problems. I don't think they're going to get it all done in the lame duck. I'll have to wait and see what the numbers are to see what committee I'm on, but I think the public's going to demand that we work together and come with some good solutions.
Titus will serve a central Las Vegas district, including downtown and the Strip. The new representative for the newly created 4th District is former State Senator Stephen Horsford. The Democrat Horsford beat out Republican Danny Tarkanian in a classic battle of the policies of the left versus the conservative right. For Horsford, his victory is the next step in a growing political career. For Tarkanian, it was another stinging defeat, and after a number of runs for office, he says it's time to move on.
You know, as I've talked to people, talked to them throughout this district, their concerns are jobs, protecting health care, specifically Medicare and Social Security, and addressing our housing prices. And those are the things that I'm going to focus on as their representative in Congress.
My kids and I experienced things that we never would have. I'm very blessed to have had this opportunity and thankful for it. I am going to step back from politics and do some other things, but we gave it our best shot.
That 4th District stretches across a large area of central Nevada from North Las Vegas to just southeast of Reno.
Well, Horsford and Titus are Democrats. The 2 incumbents who won are Republicans, splitting Nevada's delegation right down the middle. In the 3rd District, Representative Joe Heck defeated Democratic State Assembly Speaker John Oseguera, and this will be Heck's 2nd term.
I think I've got the hardest working staff in all of Washington and the folks back here in the district, because we take care of folks. And they're the ones who do all the work, and I somehow get all the credit.
I don't know what the future holds for me in public life or outside it, but I'm very optimistic. I still believe Nevada and America is a place where a kid born to a single mom can grow up to build a good middle-class life with a lot of hard work and some help along the way.
Democrats held a slight voter registration edge in the district going into the election, but a large number of voters call themselves nonpartisan. Republican Mark Amodei has won a full term in the U.S. House. He defeated Samuel Kopnick in the 2nd district race. Amodei represents areas in northern area, traditionally a conservative stronghold. Amodei won the seat last year when Dean Heller was appointed to the U.S. Senate.
And when the Nevada legislature comes together for its next session in 2013, Democrats will have control of the Nevada State Senate. They hung on by 1 seat. Democrats also maintain control of the state assembly. But Marcus Conklin, seen as the next assembly speaker, lost his race for re-election. And there's some questions about one state assembly race. Democrat Andrew Martin won the Assembly District's 9 seat, despite a judge ruling that he lives outside that district. He beat Republican Kelly Hurst. Now, Martin can appeal to the Supreme Court to see if they will reinstate his eligibility.
Clark County voters said a big no to investing in school improvements. Question 2 came down to raising property taxes for Clark County homeowners to help raise money to repair and replace several aging schools. It lost by a 2-to-1 margin. 66% of voters decided against that measure. We're going to continue to roll results on the bottom of our screen. We also invite you to check our 8newsnow.com page for in-depth coverage of all those results. One last election note, Nevada set a record, a voting record. More than 1 million ballots were cast. The state reported nearly 81% turnout for Nevada's registered voters in this recent election. That is pretty darn good.
Yeah, it is. And we have some other news headlines when we come back, including an officer-involved shooting in Henderson, what police say led to a deadly confrontation.
Also, hundreds of thousands of homeowners on the verge of losing a tax break, the loophole that's just about ready to close.
Plus, on this day after the election, what's causing a huge drop in the financial markets? Financial markets are facing the worst day of the year. On this day after the election, they are down sharply across the board. The Dow Jones has fallen back below the 13,000 mark. Investors are dumping stocks today, with the main concern being new information that the recession in Europe is getting worse and the problems could spread around the globe. Now, along with avoiding that so-called fiscal cliff, President Obama and the now lame duck Congress has another financial issue to deal with that affects 600,000 people. It's a tax break that saves struggling homeowners from paying thousands in taxes. It's on the chopping block. Congress hasn't extended the Mortgage Forgiveness Debt Relief Act of 2007. And that act saves homeowners from paying taxes on the portion of their mortgage that is forgiven in foreclosure, short sale, or principal reduction.
Well, just what the Mid-Atlantic didn't need in the wake of Sandy, a nor'easter hitting the region right now. The problems it's already causing. Plus, wind and some cooler temperatures are headed towards southern Nevada. A dust advisory has been issued. Sherry will have the latest for us coming up next in Neighborhood Weather.
Nevada's first choice for news. This is Channel 8 News Now at noon.
Henderson police forced to use deadly force during a standoff overnight. Police say they got a call of a man beating up his girlfriend at about 11:30. When officers tried talking to the man, he took off and then fell into a drainage ditch. Police say a gun fell out of his pocket. Investigators say the man grabbed the gun, pointed it at his head, then back toward the officers, forcing them to shoot. The man was killed. Police say he was a registered felon in Nevada and California and was wanted on a warrant from Nevada Parole and Probation. All the officers involved last night are now on paid administrative leave.
Well, airlines are starting to cancel flights to the Northeast again as a nor'easter bears down on that part of the country. Areas from Pennsylvania all the way to Boston preparing to get slammed from this winter storm. A lot of snow, high winds, and rain expected to hammer that region for hours. The storm comes at a very bad time for many who are still recovering from Sandy.
From Channel 8 News Now, this is Neighborhood Weather with Sherry Swensk.
Working on our really last worry-free day as far as the weather's concerned. Beautiful sunshine, above normal temperatures, nice clear skies overnight, and we're going to keep it that way really through tomorrow. The sunshine won't change as we get into Thursday, but those winds definitely will. Morning lows are going to drop like a rock. We had some fairly typical mid-50s in a lot of neighborhoods this morning. We're going to change those by as much as 15 to maybe 20 degrees by the time we get to the weekend. There's a cold winter storm headed our way. Let's take a look at the wind forecast. Still pretty calm today, but once we get into Thursday, wow, the winds are really going to pick up into early tomorrow for the mountains. We're looking at 20 to 30, maybe even 40-mile sustained winds with downslope winds into the mountains, and then gusts that could even top 50-plus miles an hour up there at Mount Charleston. We get pretty windy, 15 to 25-mile-an-hour winds through Thursday down in the lower elevations, gusts that could even approach 50 miles an hour as we get into Friday. Then the cold front moves through, and these winds are going to turn to the north, so then we're talking wind chill factor on Friday. That's going to make quite a difference in how those much cooler temperatures feel on your body with those cool northerly winds. Today, the high pressure ridge still built in, beautiful sunshine, nice and warm. But here's that cold low pressure. You can see those speckled clouds. That's cold air that's going to move in. This will start to drop down the west coast, take aim on us by Friday into the weekend. We have to talk about what's coming our way. The forecast outlook tomorrow, 15 to 25-mile-an-hour winds for the valley. It's going to kick up a lot of blowing dust because we're so dry. 40 to 50-mile-an-hour winds in the mountains. And then we're also looking by Friday, those winds increasing and getting stronger for some areas. Colder temperatures settle in, and we're looking at some snow for the mountains. Friday night into Saturday, we could add some rain to the valley as well. With those breezy north winds, we're looking at wind chills that could be in the 30s. Even during the day for us here in the valley. Alrighty, let's talk about Winter Storm Athena. It's bringing snow, as you can see, across the eastern seaboard. Very heavy rain over the last 3 hours has already been accumulating, and they've already been talking about 60-mile-an-hour winds along the coast. That is quite a nor'easter for all the victims of Superstorm Sandy from last week to deal with. 83 today. Turns into upper 70s, slide a little bit as far as temperatures tomorrow, but the big winds really start to kick in and temperatures slide to the 50s. I mean, they crash. This is a cold snap for us with morning lows again in the 30s. Pull those blankets out and get those jackets ready.
Ooh.
She's not kidding.
I'm just going to say she means some business.
Still have my stuff in boxes. All the cold weather stuff.
Dig out the old blanket.
Yeah.
Well, better late than never. A 106-year-old woman votes for the very first time.
What pushed her to finally get to the polls?
This portion of 8 News Now is brought to you by Southwest Medical Associates.
Voters in Colorado and Washington legalized the recreational use of marijuana for people 21 and older, even though Colorado's governor opposed the measure. In fact, after it passed, the governor released a statement saying, quote, "Don't break out the Cheetos or goldfish too quickly." And that federal law still says marijuana is an illegal drug, but his office intends to follow through with the will of the voters. The Washington bill calls for a 25% tax rate imposed on pot 3 times. And 3 more states have approved same-sex marriage. Maine, Maryland, and Washington all voted yes. The state of Oregon said no, though. And in Minnesota, voters defeated a proposal to change the state constitution that would define marriage as only between a man and a woman.
Well, there were certainly a lot of first-time voters in this election, including a 106-year-old woman. Gladys Miller cast her ballot in South Carolina. Now, she's been alive for 19 presidencies, all the way back to Teddy Roosevelt. But she's had the chance to vote for 15 presidents, just never bothered. But Gladys changed her mind a few weeks ago thanks to her close friend, Glenda Ponder.
Well, I was sitting up there one day, we was talking about voting. So then she said she wanted to register to vote.
Glenda was there yesterday to guide Gladys right through the voting process, and 106. Got her little sticker and everything. She was got to vote.
It's about time, because it feels good. You know it feels good, right?
I know,
Surprised she hasn't voted, but, you know, we live and learn.
It's off the bucket list now. We'll be right back after this.
This portion of 8 News Now is brought to you by Vons.
Nevada devours energy.
With the building of this power plant and the transmission line, we will now be energy independent.
The plan to sever our addiction.
We have made investments over the past several years in transmission lines.
Is rusting away.
Transmission infrastructure is essential to provide more opportunity for renewable energy.
The millions already spent, the design's disastrous flaw, and the overwhelming solution to get this project back online. An I-Team investigation tonight at 11 on 8 News Now.
This portion of 8 News Now is brought to you by Rapid Cash.
That's going to do it here for 8 News Now, live at noon.
I don't know about you, but I'm glad the election is over.
You are not alone.
Yeah. All right. Remember, 8 News Now, always available at 8newsnow.com, Facebook, and Twitter. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you at 4.